This past January, I had the opportunity to travel to Costa Rica and learn about how they work to protect and nurture their wildlife. Costa Rica is one of the national leaders in wildlife conservation. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation today. Costa Rica is known for being highly diverse and rich in its environment. Costa Rica is considered to have the highest biodiversity density of any country in the world. While it only covers 0.03% of the Earth's surface, it contains nearly 6% of the world's biodiversity. Costa Rica is an intertropical zone, meaning it is between two large bodies of water. But because it is in Central America, many animals come from both North and South America. So they get animals like sloths, but also animals like deer. There are several different environmental zones. These can include several islands, beaches, rainforests, hot springs, caves, river canyons, waterfalls, and dry, active volcanoes. It has also a wide range of altitude due to several mountainous regions, and there are several differences in latitude, temperature, wind, air humidity, and precipitation, which make the climate across the country vary. The 500,000 different species in Costa Rica are mostly made up of insects, some of which originate from Costa Rica. And this biodiversity brings in a lot of wealth for Costa Rica, so they have a lot of reasons for wanting to protect it. Conservation used to mean that there is a harmony between man and nature. Now conservation is investigating the damage that we have caused and looking for ways to fix it. It began in the early 90s for Costa Rica after they saw an extreme decrease in forest cover over the last century. By 2005, the forest coverage had increased from 21% to over 50% in just 20 years. The focus for conservation has shifted to other threats like illegal fishing, mangrove degradation, and protection of wildlife in national parks and reservations, and also places like in an animal rescue center. While I was in Costa Rica, I got to visit the Costa Rica Animal Rescue Center, one of the national parks, and a mangrove. Costa Rica is so important because they're at the forefront to slow climate change. When the trees pull greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, out of the air, and they store 238 million metric tons of carbon stores in the forest, and more than 35 million metric tons stored are in the mangroves. And so this is so crucial in the fight against climate change for Costa Rica. Costa Rica has made a lot of progress in conservation. However, they are still learning how to deal with some of the challenges that have come along with a biodiverse country. Tourism has increased greatly, and they have had to implement many laws to keep people from interacting with animals and out of dangerous places. Another issue Costa Rica has to deal with is animal trafficking, and this deals with mostly small animals that can be easily transported, but it's often in massive groups of organized crime. All hunting in Costa Rica is illegal, but unfortunately it still happens. It is hard in a developing country to have strict consequences for these things, even though they're giant threats to the ecosystems. And this can jeopardize the economy of a country that largely depends on ecotourism. There are many people who take advantage of Costa Rica's beautiful wildlife, and they want it for their own gain. They transport animals around the world, but most of the customers have no idea what kind of behavior the animals have or where they're getting the animal from, and their lack of education can be the result of many animals dying, because only 10% of animals even make it to their destination, because the conditions and environments that these animals need is not the same as when they're being transported. And if an owner decides that they don't want the animal anymore and it's released in a place where it doesn't have any predators, it can overpopulate the area, and it can steal natives' food and wipe out whole populations. New animals can also bring diseases that whole populations have never been exposed to before, and these viruses can mutate and jump into other species and cause all sorts of problems between species. Most of the animals being transported now are small, like birds and reptiles and insects, but there used to be much larger animals being trafficked. This is a problem for animals like sloths, who depend on a specific temperature, humidity, and plant for their survival. People in Costa Rica have small consequences for their crimes. and it can be a small fee or a couple of years in jail. The wildlife trafficking industry is estimated to be worth $10 billion a year, which creates a very low risk and high reward that entices people to continue practicing animal trafficking. Human interaction with animals is very dangerous for them. They study us and learn how we behave. The more they learn, the easier it is for them to get food from us and steal. They are also faster than most people. When they learn how to distract, they also figure out how to do things like get into people's houses and take things. When we were visiting the national park, we always had to keep an eye on our things, or else the monkeys would come up to us and steal our things. This can be a problem for them because once they know how to get food from us, they start not eating the right food, but eating food that is not part of their normal natural diet. And they stop hunting, which results in overpopulation among other species, and these monkeys become very unhealthy. Before entering the park, our bags were searched for any type of food or packages that we could give to the animals. These animals also start to develop no fear of humans as well, and they can become violent once they realize we are not a threat to them. So, human interaction with animals can be very detrimental to themselves. The animals at the Animal Rescue Center were all intended to be released, but some cannot. Most of the animals were kept as pets or have been injured due to infrastructure surrounding the forest and in cities. Many monkeys and sloths fall off power lines, and they have to stay at the center permanently. Keeping the animals as pets can make them friendly towards humans, and this is very dangerous for them if they are being illegally hunted. For example, in the picture on the right, there is a deer, and he was raised in a home, and he really loves humans, and he will even lick your hand and follow you around. However, if they release him, then he will be probably killed instantly because he will go up to the hunter and lick their hand. So this is a problem. Some owners also teach their parrots to sing, and the parrots at the Animal Rescue Center have taught all of the other parrots how to sing the word hello or hola. And so if they were released into the wild, then they would completely change how all of the birds in Costa Rica communicate just from the center. Not only this, but some of the birds also could have viral infections from the center, and if this is transmitted to other birds, then that could kill off the entire species if they were to be let go. The Costa Rica Rescue Center works to not only heal the injured and release them as soon as possible, but also to inform people that these are not pets and that they should not be treated as such, and that they should be treated with respect. To help with animal trafficking, there have been many agreements between several Latin American countries and European governments, such as the Lima Declaration, which was signed as an agreement to collaborate on efforts to combat wildlife trafficking, because a globalized business, like wildlife trafficking, must have a globalized response. Some people say that wildlife trafficking has decreased because technology has become way more prevalent, and people don't have much reason to buy animals anymore because we have distractions and entertainment now. However, it could be increasing people's want for animals because social media can display these animals as cute and cuddly, so people want them as pets. There have been lots of implementations of environmental conservation in schools, and the Costa Rica Animal Rescue Center has played a lot of roles in that. However, even if you teach the kid, it does not change the opinion of the parent. So things have begun to change from generation to generation, and hopefully they will continue to change. Costa Rica has signed 45 international environmental treaties, and they have also enacted many regulation services. Now, over 1/4 of the land in Costa Rica is covered by national parks and reservations, and since then, conservation and management efforts in Costa Rica have been very successful.